In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Volvo Penta trim tilt unit, and we're going to go through everything I can think of, any kind of problem you can have. I will take this unit apart and just about every piece it comes in and reassemble it. This video should cover everything you need to know unless I do forget something, and if I do, put it in the comment section. To begin with, we'll talk about the head here. Okay. If you want to use your boat and the trim tilt does not work, that does not have to wreck your day. There are things you can do to keep you on the water. Number one, what the head does basically. All right, if you look at it apart, it's got two relays, one on each side, and then it's got a switch. That just turns the motor off when the trim tilt is in its highest position. If that fails to work, you could just simply unplug the motor. It's got two wires. Okay, one is black and one is brown. If you hook the black to negative and the brown to positive, this motor will spin counterclockwise. Reverse it and it'll spin clockwise. A counterclockwise spin on the motor will bring this shaft upward, lowering the outdrive into the water. Now, if your motor is burnt out, it's not a big deal either, as long as you have a spade bit and a drill, of course, and a 1/2 inch through 5/8 will work. This one happens to be a 9/16. You just remove the motor and you'll see what happens. I'll do clockwise first. All right, counterclockwise. Now, the only problem with using this method, even though it gets you back on the water, is you're not going to know when to stop. So you have to be careful because you don't want to smash this up in here and keep going. That's what this button switch here prevents. Just be careful using that method, whether you use a friend or just keep tabs on it as you go. Otherwise, what can happen is you'll wreck this little worm gear in here, and we'll go through that later. A quick note on this upper box or head is the two relays on the inside they have 5 prongs on them. All right, that's the same as the relays that are in the wiring harness. The only difference between them really is the ones inside the head are much smaller. This case, this plastic case, is a little bit larger, and in a pinch you can actually grind away some of this case and get it to fit in there. I see on this particular one somebody did that already. All right, the markings are the same if you look at them closely. Now, when it comes to removing these things, of course you take out the 2 bolts, and here's where you got to be careful. There's some videos where somebody will try and pry on this lip right here, and what can happen if you do that is you can actually break this thing off, and then you'll need a fender washer and a bolt just to get this back on here mounted. Now, they all have a nylon sleeve in there, so you don't need to use heat to remove them, but some are really tough to get out. And what I normally do is first I'll try twisting it. Okay, I'll rock it back and forth, medium strength, not like orangutan strength, because you don't want to break one of these lips up here. Now, if you're uncomfortable grabbing it by the motor, just grab your 1 1/4 wrench and just tighten it to see if it'll twist it. This ear did not get broke off that way. It was actually somebody cut the whole package out of a boat and they weren't careful. But anyway, if it's still stuck, the next step you'd want to do is you go in your boat. Okay, remember, this is still mounted in there, but it's not bolted down. And you stick your drill in there with your spade bit, and you spin it so that the outdrive is just a little bit off the ground. You don't want it all the way up, and of course you can't have it all the way down, but just a little bit. And then you apply a pressure on the outdrive and just push down. You can relatively hard too if you want, and see if that pops it free. Okay, here's what it looks like inside there. And so basically, using the spade bit, the bit will fit right in this hole here, so it won't go anywhere. And of course, it'll turn it. If that still don't work, then you go to the last method, which is I'll run the shaft all the way up so it's nice and flush. And then I'll get, okay, hopefully we can see this here. On the end of your suspension fork, if you lift the outdrive up by hand, you could place a socket. I'm not sure it's this size. It might be a little bit shorter, but whatever works. Make sure you don't touch the button at all. You might actually have to tie back the catch paws on the outdrive. All right, just so that button stays in there. And you put this in there, and then you press on it. You press on the outdrive, and that should push it out. It is a crude method, but you want to, just as long as you make sure this is all the way touching the base. Otherwise, if this shaft is sticking out a little bit and you jam it up in there, what can happen is your clutch cone, you can actually break the center out of this thing. And I've actually seen that happen once before. I want to mention this before I forget, but out of all the units I've seen, as far as adjusting the clutch cone, you do it by twisting on the housing cap, all right? And that takes 1 1/4 inch. And 50% of them that I've seen, they're ran all the way down. And the other 50%, there's just a little gap in here where you could actually stick your fingernail in there. This would be the preferred way, because in case something happens where this shaft gets jammed up that way, you want the clutch cone to slip so it doesn't bust anything inside. All right, once you remove this unit, or if you in fact buy one off of eBay or something like that, you want to do a visual, and because there are some things you need to look for. This one's obvious. The shaft is bent, and you'll see there's a nice gap right there. All right. Okay, on this one, it's not so obvious, but there is a slight gap here, and if you flip it over, it's not quite as much of a gap, so you know something's going on in there. Okay, if I unscrew the cap, you'll notice there is a very, very slight crack in there. This housing is actually shot. However, you can still use it, but what could happen is, okay, inside this cap, there's a rubber seal. And with this shaft being cracked, it actually cocks this a little bit as the shaft comes out. And what can happen is you'll get a whole bunch of scratches right along the shaft. And you'll see the grease all over it, and water will actually get up inside the unit. Now that sucks, because this is actually a nice looking unit. It's pretty nice and clean, but it's garbage, so it's going to be a parts unit. There's two kinds. This is an older one, and you tell the difference by this one has an extra like lip on it. It's a little thicker on the top. This one doesn't have any. It doesn't matter. Everything still fits. All the parts, the internals are universal. Now, if your shaft is bent, see if you can see that. This is actually slightly bent. I'm going to show you how to actually straighten that too. It takes a little bit of patience and you need a press, but it can be done. I'm going to start taking this one apart, and of course I won't be putting this one back together. I'll find a good housing to put back together, and we're going to start by removing this very end pressure pad. Alright, this video is already over 8 minutes, so I'm going to make a part 2. Part 2 will be complete teardown and reassembly, and part 3 will be straightening the shaft, because I can't imagine too many people interested in that, and we're going to try and keep these videos short.